All right, gang. Joining me on the show today is very talented writer director. You can check out his stuff actually completely for free, which is awesome. Harrow House Films. He has two feature films on his channel, and he just came out with a three-part series, at least three-part so far series entitled "Surviving La Llorona," which you can either watch this thing as three individual episodes or watch it how I did at one fell shoot, and it really is a rad documentary, man. But director Anubys Lopez is here with us, man. Thank you for coming on board and doing the interview with us.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
So La Llorona, super creepy, folklore tale that I live in Northern California, so every time I have a bunch of friends from Southern California area, the Hispanic culture is very strong. So La Llorona in the Southern California area definitely has a strong presence, yeah, of ghost stories, and some would say their own encounters with her, so much so that they even featured her at an event that we cover every year, Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. Made her
Okay.
made her like an icon of the event, which was cool. But how did you decide that you wanted to make this docu series based upon firsthand encounters with La Llorona?
Yeah, so pretty much how it started was I was hanging out with a couple of friends, and they somehow the topic came up, like the legend of La Llorona, and then we all started like just talking about things about her. And actually the first episode on the series, it's actually based on this story. It's a friend of ours that told us the story pretty much.
Oh,
And she just told us about everything that happened to her and her brother. And when she told us the story, I started wondering, what about other people that maybe have gone through the same thing, or have seen her or experienced anything somehow, and they're not able to tell the story. So what we did was we posted a casting call on Facebook and on Instagram, and we said, if there's anybody that has seen or experienced La Llorona in the past, then please, like, send your story to this email, and this and that. And to our surprise, the casting call actually went viral. So there were like thousands and thousands of submissions, and like thousands of shares and comments. So we actually had to open a different email just for that, for the casting call alone. So yeah, we started getting like a lot of those submissions, and we figured, there's an audience for it. So definitely, let's make it.
that's pretty wild. That so the brother and sister in the first episode, is that your friend? Is that
Yeah.
them? Okay. And so this story, sharing the story that they shared, it seemed like that has helped their relationship a little bit. That's kind of conveyed in the episode too. So that's pretty rad that not only did you get this story out of them in the first episode, with your friends, and that gets the ball rolling on you finding all these other stories, but you actually helped your friends kind of improve their relationship. That's cool, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the funny thing is that it actually happened exactly like the story was saying. Because once we posted the casting call, her brother was the one that told her. He was like, "Hey, do you remember the time that we saw La Llorona?" And she was like, "Wait, I didn't know that you had seen her too." So that's how they kind of like became, they came together and were able to tell the story.
Wow, that's really cool. That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah.
You personally, did you like have a backstory, a history, whether it's like your mom and dad like telling you the story to, try to get you to behave, or what kind of a history do you have with the La Llorona, folklore? Because that's a very particular ghost story to like sit around and share that night that got the whole thing rolling. Did you have a pass with La Llorona in some capacity?
I did. My parents did tell me about her when I was younger, but
Mhm.
it wasn't too common where I come from in Cuba. So they did tell me about her, but she had like other names and like all type of stuff like that. But I feel like every country has like their own version of La Llorona. Like even I think even in Japan, like they have their own version of the spirit. So. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of people know about the spirit and have experienced it somehow. So
So
there's definitely a lot of experiences.
for you, was it when your parents were telling you, was it more of like a thing to like get you to behave type of a thing?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I feel like most parents that's what how they do it. They're just trying to get their kid to like go to bed or like
Or
behave. So they tell them like don't do this or that because La Llorona's gonna get you. But I personally feel like she is a reflection of ourselves. So whatever she's like a mirror. So whatever you fear, that's kind of like how you're gonna see her. Like a lot of people when they see her, they experience fear. Some other people fear they experience guilt or like regret, and some other people just feel sadness. So it's just kind of like I guess a reflection of who you are, and that's how the spirit, I guess, gets to you in a way.
sure.
You know.
Yeah, I mean that all adds up because I can't speak for all of Mexico, and if there's variations. How you're saying, I definitely believe that everybody culture wise has their own La Llorona, but I know the northern western part of Mexico. She was in love with a guy and she killed her children,
Yeah.
thinking that that's going to get her to be with the guy that she's in love with, and he kind of turns around and says, "You're crazy. What are you talking about?" And then she goes on to kill herself, and that feelings of sadness and regret and mourning and all that stuff that checks all the La Llorona boxes that I think are conveyed, no matter if you may slightly change the backstory a little bit or however it
Right.
gets lost in translation. Those overall themes stay there. And you saying that you had, the casting call blows up and you get all these submissions, which is awesome. How did you, decide which ones you wanted to have on the show?
So yeah, that's a good question. There was a lot of them because we had literally like hundreds and hundreds of stories. I think what it came down to, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, is the ones that were more budget friendly and the ones that we were able to kind of do within the same areas. So we chose the ones that we can portray and make it seem like it was like in Mexico because we shot everything in Cat Springs, which is I think like about 2 hours from Houston. So we rented like these cabins that looked very like like they belonged somewhere in Mexico.
Sure.
So a lot of these stories they all fit within the same locations. So we were able to choose those because if we had too many different ones, then we would have to spend a lot more money and a lot more time like shooting all of these. So we didn't have a big budget, so we had to shoot everything in 3 days, and it was kind of like running and trying to make sure that everything comes out good. So that's pretty much how we chose those stories. We chose the best ones, the ones that were more budget friendly. We were able to tell in a better way.
That's pretty wild, man, that you guys shot that whole thing. So is the insane that I know, part 3 just came out recently, or episode 3, was that the end, part 3?
Yeah, so we shot 4 episodes, but we were only able to release three. We weren't able to finish the fourth episode. Same thing because of time constraints and budget. We're currently working on making a feature version of the whole series. So we're gonna chop it down and we're gonna finish the fourth episode and like all of that. So right now the series is being shot at Cannes. So we just posted about it on our Instagram. So we're like super excited about it. And there's been like a lot of interest on the series with different distributors and everything like that. So hopefully we can have a feature version of it pretty soon, but as of right now, yes, it's only 3 episodes. So the third one would be the end. Yeah.
No, they're very good episodes, man. It's
Thank
cool
you.
that you have each episode be uniquely, their own separate story. But that's wild that it definitely felt like Mexico as far as the set that you guys got, and
Yeah.
B, that it was all within like a pretty close area because that does not really come across at all. You guys made a small space really feel like three distinct areas. I got to tell you, the church episode, that middle episode, that was creepy.
Yeah, I actually love that episode because it gives the whole thing is in Spanish and it gives it more of like authenticity to it.
Right.
That church was very creepy. The owners of the location, they let us use the church, um, till like probably like 2 or 3 in the morning. We were there shooting for like 12 hours straight. But the church is in Houston, so it's not really in Mexico.
Yeah.
So if you go there, it's literally just the church, and then everything around it looks like Houston. Like everything just looks like the city.
Pretty,
But we were able to like cheat it and make the shots look like it was a completely different country. So
yeah. No, definitely the shot of her running out of the church front door. Yeah, that you definitely made it look not like Houston. So
yeah.
uh, the thing that happens a lot, I think, with ghost stories in Hollywood or outside of Hollywood on a personal level and talking to people, they seem to always say like the more that you kind of like dabble in the area, the more active spirits around you or whatever may become. Like if you're making a supernatural movie, say The Exorcist, you have all this like crazy shit that happens on set. Then you hear all these behind the scenes stories of weird things because and the behind the scenes interviews, the cast all chalks it up to we were dabbling in this area and we were just asking for something to happen. You in doing the series, you guys are taking on one of the biggest, you know, Hispanic, Latin American folklore boogie lady, for lack of a better term, thing. And so it's like if you're going to mess with the other side, so to speak, you're taking on a hell of an entity to mess with. So if that whole thing were true, um, and something happened to you guys on set, I would totally believe it. Did you guys have any like crazy encounters or any kind of anything going on?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that we just posted a video to Instagram about something that happened behind the scenes when we were shooting that first episode actually with the sister and the brother.
Mhm.
As the sister was talking, so we did that day we shot a completely different reenactment first, and then she was the very last one to go with her story, and we
Mhm.
shot that inside the house. So it was pretty much like the last one of the last shots that we were doing with her, and she was just like finishing up her story, and it was probably like around like 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, give or take. And as we were shooting, the whole cast and crew, everybody was very quiet. She was talking, and then out of nowhere, the door to our left, it just literally like flew off its hinges, like it just fell,
Wow.
and nobody had touched it. We were opening and closing the door the whole night, so it was fine. It didn't look like there was nothing wrong with it. Um, and as it happened, everybody was just, like everybody jumped, like, what is going on?
Sure.
And yeah, and she got scared too, and she was asking like, what happened? And then our DP was like, you know what? Let's get this final shot. Let's get what we need to get, and let's go. And the funny thing about it was that before we shot there that night, the owners of the location had actually told us they actually charged us extra because they wanted for someone to come and do like a cleanse of the area because of the fact that apparently the place was haunted. So we already kind of knew that something could have happened, but I think that since we kept messing with it throughout the night, like it just kind of made it worse. And then towards the end, that happened. So I mean, nothing crazy happened. Nobody got injured or anything. We were able to just finish up and leave, but that was definitely scary when it happened.
Dang. Um, you guys are filming this thing in 3 days, which is
Yeah,
pretty wild.
yeah.
What kind of a crew size did you have?
So we had it wasn't too many people. I think we had on set we had like about like 15, 20 people. It was the DP, me, the assistant director. Um Cast wise it was only like 2 or 3 people per day, so it wasn't too many. There's not a lot of cast on the story anyways. But yeah, I think at our peak the highest episode, that like the most people that we had, was the church episode, and that one was like about 20 people, give or take. So yeah. Yeah.
The challenge of getting that done in 3 days, man, from a filmmaking perspective, that's a hell of a gamut. You gotta
Yeah.
I imagine you guys had it like planned out perfectly. Like you guys had, no downtime. You're talking about filming until 3 in the morning. Just as a filmmaker perspective, how was that experience? 3 days, 3 episodes.
Yeah, it was crazy, man, because we had to do so much pre-production, to make sure that everything would come out right. So we had to plan everything to a T, and we literally had like the times and everything. Like we shoot this scene from 5:30 to 6, so we need to get it done in 30 minutes, and if we're running behind, everything else is gonna get behind. So
Right.
we were lucky enough to have a great team, and our assistant director was on top of everything, and we had great cast, and I think we were able to pull it off, but it was very close to not being done, because 3 days to shoot all of that is, yeah, it's hard.
No, it's a lot, and it flows so well together. You talked about your cast not being the biggest. It doesn't need to be. You're telling these, stories, these true stories through the people that lived them, and then you're seeing the representation of them, childhood versions of themselves acted out. Um, but the thing that, of course, ties all these stories together is La Llorona herself, and your character design is creepy. So talk to me about like who, you found the actress, or did you know who, is that a friend of yours who plays La Llorona, or did you put out a casting call for her? Like, talk about that process of bringing her to life for your show.
Yeah, so for her, we had already been following her on Instagram for a little bit, and she does a lot of like cosplay with like a lot of like horror stuff.
Okay.
And then I had seen her post something in the water, like a water creature that was like scary and like all of that. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, she would be perfect for our series. So she's kind of like an influencer, so she's a little bit popular. And I sent her an email, and I didn't think she would get back to me, honestly. Or if she would have, it would have been, it was gonna take a while. But she got back to us right away, and we talked about it, and it was great. She was super professional about everything, and we ran the idea by her. We told her, like I told her, this is how I want La Llorona to look, and we worked on choosing the right dress to make sure that it would fit her, and that it looked vintage and it looked the part. and when it came to like the actual makeup, we chose the right like eyes and everything that we felt that would embody La Llorona, you know. So
Mhm.
it was a bit of a process to make sure that everything looked exactly like it was supposed to look. We didn't want it to just kind of like look cheap or make it look bad. We even considered at some point using VFX for her eyes, so her eyes would have been black instead of how they look now.
Yeah.
But I decided to go with just how they look now because it gave it more of a, like a natural look. Um,
And
but
the personality, like, can come through type of a thing, like,
yeah,
yeah, I like that you left it how it is, for sure.
yeah, yeah, and it was a lot easier to do as well. Yeah.
Um, with that, the thing that I thought was interesting is the story about the roadside story, because this was the first time that I'd ever heard any story about La Llorona taking, like, a different look to fool someone, um, in this regard, and so his story where he's, he's carrying that suitcase for a moment, and she looked like a perfectly healthy lady. I thought that was interesting. There's folklore, here, especially, on the back roads type of thing about a woman in white,
Hmm.
and she is hitchhiking or she's on the side of the road, and if you pull over, and you let her into the car, you're pretty much marked, for death. The car, a car crash or something's going to happen. But she's always wearing white, so that kind of like, in my brain, I kind of like went to that story, ghost story that I had heard. But I was curious, was there multiple stories like, his, where he talked about La Llorona, taking you know, another form to fool the victim in, and then kind of revealing herself as La Llorona.
Yeah, there was a couple of them like that. There was another one of like a little kid that he lived like in this village, and there was like this old lady that would always pass by and like give him candy,
Mhm.
but she would always like make him chase her, like, here's the candy, you know, you gotta chase me, like you gotta get the candy, you know. And then eventually, I think like the fourth or fifth day, the kid followed her like into the forest, and then um she grabbed him and tried to drown him in a lake nearby and like all of that. So there was a couple of them that were kind of like that, where she would, you know, appear as something else and then try to trick you. There was another guy that told us that he was working like at the border. He was doing like oil and gas, and he worked for like some company. And he was trying to like go to the bar and like, you know, just have a night out with a girl or whatever. And that he picked up this girl, and the girl was like beautiful and this and that. And then turns out, you know, she, as they were walking home next to the lake, you know, she turned into like, you know, this evil, like this scary creature, and pretty much like try to kill him. So there was a couple of of stories like that that we unfortunately were not able to make, but that would have been really cool to do.
Yeah, and that's interesting that they all, they, in the spiritual realm, that may not, his encounter, that may not even be the La Llorona, you know what I mean? But the fact that they is being put into her umbrella really, shows you the reach of, how scary that figure is to people, and how,
Yeah.
if they're going to point to something and they don't have a label that they're going to put on it, that encounter sure does check enough boxes to be, my La Llorona, you know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
and that's pretty wild, man. With that, in the film making that you have completed, your two features and now this series, you seem like you're tackling, multiple subgenres and genres of filmmaking, man. Like, is that kind of a goal, or do you want like a certain genre that you prefer? Like, is horror your jam? Do you want to try anything and everything? What do you see for yourself down the road?
I like horror. I don't like a lot of those other genres, mainly because that's what I watch, you know. So I feel like that's what I can relate to, and I feel like horror brings out something in people that other genres can't, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. There's something about making people feel like uneasy and scared and jittery, you know. Something
Yeah.
about that feeling that makes it feel it relates a lot to life, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's not a lot of the stuff that I do is very like uneasy or very like weird in a lot of ways, and I feel like it relates a lot to life because it's life is just kind of like, you know, weird, and it's not just black and white. There's a lot of different things to it. But
100%.
yeah, I love horror because of that, because it makes me feel more human. It makes me feel more vulnerable, and yeah, I feel like that's what I would always do. I don't want to go into like another genre or anything. I just like horror.
So with that, man, what is two-part question? What is your favorite, kind of all-time couple horror movies, and then what is your favorite horror movies that you've seen, say, within the last like 2 or 3 years?
So my favorite of all time right now, I think it will have to be either Hereditary
Okay.
or Lamb. Have you seen that one from
Yeah.
A24?
Yeah.
Very weird movie. I like a lot of like weird stuff like that. And then recently, I just watched Clown in a Cornfield.
Is it any good?
Yes, I loved it. It was really good. It's I mean I'm usually not a big fan of slashers. It
Hmm.
just kind of depends. It has to have a story, but this one it was a fun slasher and it had a really good story. So I definitely recommend it. It was a great movie. I was giving it like a 6 out of 10 before I even watched it, and then I came out of the theater and I was like, this is a 9 out of 10. You know?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's loved it. It was really well made. Great story, great suspense. Everything was really good.
Right on, man. Well, that being said, what is coming up next for you? I know you said that you're turning the La Llorona three-parter into a feature. So that kind of answers the question as to immediately what you got going on. But
Yeah.
is there another docu series horror based show thing? Or are you going to go back to feature film or somewhere in between?
So yeah, somewhere in between. We are actually shooting. We're shooting another series that's kind of like weird stories and paranormal stuff.
Okay,
We just shot a. I think about a month or two ago, we shot a paranormal show with an influencer, and it was called Exploring Haunted America, which is where we go and we for 8 days consecutively, we went to the eight most haunted locations in Texas, and we just pretty much documented the whole thing. And there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened, to the point where when I started, I wasn't really a believer when it came to like spirits and like all of that. And by I think like the third day, I I'm a believer now. Like there's a lot of stuff that happened, and the show was amazing. Like the host, she's a great great hostess, and she did a great job, and I feel like, you know, people that like horror and paranormal stuff, they're gonna love it. So that's what's coming up. It'll probably be out in a couple of months, and yeah, I'm just excited for everybody to see it.
that's awesome, man. Are you gonna release it like weekly? You think, or what do you guys? What is your guys' plan as far as that goes?
Yeah, so we shot 8 episodes, and from those eight episodes, I think there's enough footage to probably make like 2 episodes. Instead of having eight, we're probably gonna have double, because we shot like hours and hours of footage.
Sure.
So we're probably gonna have like a 45-minute version for the streamers like Tubi and Prime and like all of the other ones, Apple TV and like all of that, and then we'll have like a 20-minute version for YouTube. for free.
Oh, wow,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and that's yeah, that's gonna be released probably like weekly, in probably for 2-3 months, um and we'll see how that goes, but that's kind of like our strategies so far, like right now. So we'll see how to kind of like approach it better, but we might even have enough footage to make some of it into a feature. We always try to, whenever we shoot a lot of these things, we try to like have um different formats for different streamers, and for different platforms and all of that. There's a lot of consumption going on right now, so you gotta capitalize on it.
No, yeah, 100%, man, and everything is in a different format.
Yeah.
It's like it blows your mind when you're editing a film and you go to the export settings and it's like one of 35 choices depending on where you're going to put it.
Yeah, yeah. You can even like make shorts out of like features, or series or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah,
I know shorts are like super popular right now. So, anything to get out there and to have people watch and like everything.
oh
So
yeah, 100%, man. And that being said, where can everybody follow your guys' stuff and keep track of when uh, that show is coming out or when any project from you is coming out?
yeah, so you can go to our YouTube channel. It's called Harrow House Films, and you can subscribe there, and we'll have the free version. And then if you want to actually watch the full like 45-minute version, you can always look that one up on Prime, or on Tubi. Um, but for the most part, we post most of our things on our YouTube channel, so people can subscribe there and keep up with everything. We'll have a lot of stuff coming out, so and so all gonna be for free. So it's great.
It's very cool. Like I said, I watched your film Aged, and then I watched
Okay.
the La Llorona series, of course, and yeah, everybody Horror House Films. We'll put a link in the show notes, and yeah, but definitely go check out Anubis' stuff,
Thank
and
you.
we
Appreciate it.
definitely will. Once this paranormal show is as on the way, man, like we'll have to get you back on to talk some of the stories that happened on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would love if you guys are open to it, to bring the hostess as well. She can talk
Oh
to
yeah,
you guys and like do all of that. A lot of promotion and whatever you guys need. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
right on, buddy.